It's like interest on a really bad investment. You like keep paying off your minimum payment, but the interest is so high that the actual sum you need to pay out is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the aDICKdid podcast. Whoa! I'm your host, Jake Chapman. We're here on Castaway TV. If you could please hit that like and subscribe button. We're here to bring awareness to addiction and make some light of the content here. Addiction can have a bit of a stigma to it. Definitely drugs can as well, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Some people really frown upon people that have done drugs, but there's not a child in this world that's eating Fruit Loops right now going, I want to do heroin, Mom. There just isn't a child. It's something that happens over time, whether you end up around the wrong people or the wrong influences, which I will talk about in another podcast. And drugs end up in people's lives, especially ones that are lost. And sometimes it happens over an injury. The doctor gives you a pill that helps heal everything, and all of a sudden you need more and more. And now you're on methadone, and you might be on it for the rest of your life, and that's pretty fucked up. But let's focus on drugs for a second and the evolution of drugs. Whether people would like to admit it or not, the real gateway drug is alcohol. It's probably one of the first substances that a child will try that will alter the mind. And you'll realize that if you use this, you will feel this. That's a gateway to understanding that, oh, if I try this, this might make me feel better. So the ones that blame marijuana, although that now is in the spectrum since it's legal here in Canada, yes, the gateway drug is really alcohol for most people. Some people may not know this, but a lot do. Cocaine is very well served at almost any bar bathroom. It's something that you don't realize going in as a child, or you're very just numb to this world. You don't really realize anything. But you're going to end up being faced with drugs way more often than you expect. You in like grade 6, we had Dare come in to talk to us about drugs and the effect of drugs, but they really just be like, don't do drugs or you'll get arrested. They don't really inform you about what drugs do, what drugs are, how often you're going to be faced with drugs. Because by the time you're 20 years old and you've been out to the bar a few times, you've probably ran into somebody that's on drugs or has someone offer you drugs. You'll find users are very, very giving because they, quite honestly, want you to be on the same level as them. As I've come to find out, you don't want to be. But when you're lost in a world, sometimes it's great to feel accepted. It's a struggle that a lot of people deal with. And unfortunately, some of us go down the wrong path. But that doesn't mean your life is over. I feel like a lot of people, once you get into these hard, heavy drugs, you're like, no one's going to forgive me for this. They will. But you got some actions to prove first. You've got to prove that, one, you ain't going to do that no more. And two, that you didn't mean to hurt the people you've hurt. Because a lot of addicts, as addicts, we hurt people. Hurt people. It's a proven fact. We do it whether we mean to or not. And a lot of the decisions that we make during that time period are very selfish. And when you do selfish acts, usually it's at the harm of others. For those that just don't understand, they're like, oh, like alcohol's enough. I would never touch anything like that. I said the same thing. Even by the time I was about 22 years old, I said I would never try hard drugs. And now, 27, I've almost done every single drug you could imagine. Not every single one. but the list is much shorter of the things that I haven't tried than I have. And that's not a pride thing. I'm saying that, but it's just reality. That's what's happened in a 5 year span. Not even 5 years. I went from I'm never gonna do drugs to I've almost done every single drug you could imagine. Now, how the heck do you get there? How do you get to that point? For me personally, it was just like an evolution. I ended up in some weird scenarios around some weird friends, just in different places. I was experiencing a lot in my early 20s, and eventually I was like, you know what? I want to experience everything. And there was no intention of using things every single day. There was, I want to try things, and try things I did. What I didn't know at that time is I already had one, I was easily influenced, and two, I had a very addictive personality. I already abused alcohol. I kind of knew that, but I didn't understand the outcome that was going to come from it. If I drank to get drunk. There's no drinking to have a beer, and there was no like, I couldn't stop once I started. I wanted the full effect. I wanted to get as much out of it as possible. Now, add drugs to that scenario, and you try it, you don't get that full effect. So you try and try again. And all of a sudden, you're a couple years in and you're using every weekend, and you're like, it's not that bad. I just use on the weekends, right? I still go to work. You know, some days I do it after work, but like I show up the next day. What's so bad about that? Well, if I was the other person looking in, like my managers who watched me struggle and suffer, maybe I would have understood better, but I didn't. I was blind to my own demise. It's very embarrassing, but it's time to take notice and realize where I was and use that to never put myself there again so I can be actually where I want to be. We need to move forward in life. And yeah, so this just started with trying some pills, doing some Molly, never really getting much out of that. And then it led to cocaine. And when cocaine met my nose, uh-oh, that's dangerous. I knew it right away. This gives you like a superhero power to drink, because it's like the alcoholic's drug, honestly. If you like drinking, chances are cocaine is going to be right there dancing in your ear, because it just allows you to drink that much more, get all that confidence and all that comfortability out of alcohol with the control. All of a sudden, you feel like you're in control. Now, you may not actually be, but you fucking feel like it. And it's dangerous. All of a sudden, you can drink till the next day and just keep going. And you're like, yeah, I'm Superman. And people around you are like, they're kind of like, wow, that's crazy. And they look at you like you're like a rock star, right? You're like, wow, damn, he parties hard. But really, when that continues to happen, they start looking at you like, wow, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, dude, why can't you just go home? You know what? If I could answer that question at that time, I wish I could have went home. You know, but I couldn't. And the more you do of these hard drugs, the longer you stay up. It just breaks you down. It breaks you down mentally. It breaks you down physically. It breaks down your whole life. You can go from having a comfortable job to being homeless, as I did, and feeling like the world's against you. And when you're down in that low point, you're about willing to take that pain away any way possible. And that's where you can end up in these dark holes. When you really want to take that pain away, you'll take any substance. Honestly, anything that anybody has in that room, it's hard to say no at that point. If that's going to take this away, if I can just feel a little bit better right now, I'm going to do it. And that led me to using meth and heroin, and I tried it all, friends. I did not put a needle in my arm, but that doesn't make it any better. I wasn't that far away from doing that, honestly. Like one wrong room, and I very easily could have ended up doing that. Like it's a scary thought, but it's the reality of it, and that's why I can't frown upon anybody else, and I don't feel that people should be frowned upon for it. There's some very sick and selfish people in this world, but there's a lot of people that actually want to get out of it, and they just haven't gotten either the, it's almost as if opportunity, the right time and the right place could change everything for that person. But there's a lot that you have to do for yourself. And that's where a lot of people struggle. We really think that it's going to just happen. All these right things are going to be put into place, but you have to chase that. You have to put yourself in position so those good things happen. You can't allow yourself to go back into the trap house and expect someone not to offer you the drugs, and like, going in to those scenarios that, maybe I'll just get to sniff a little bit of cocaine and we'll get away with it, because that's the addict's personality. We really don't want to keep doing it, but we really want to be offered it that one more time, and it takes a lot of change around you, a lot of change of influence to really make a difference in your life. And if you haven't guessed, my drug of choice was cocaine. It ended up being crack cocaine in the end. Yes, that's right. I smoked crack. It's really wild to say, and it's kind of really embarrassing to say out loud, but that's where I was. I was using upwards of 7 to 14 grams a day of crack cocaine. It's not a healthy lifestyle. I was down to under 130 pounds, I think, by the end of it. I'm 6'1". That's a lot of weight loss. Like I'm 170 now, and I'm a twig still. So I had nothing on me. I would go for anywhere from 3 to 5 days at a time until I would just shut down and maybe sleep 3 hours. I'd wake up and just continue the process. Like it didn't feel good. I hated myself, and that's how I treated myself at that time. But like, I never would have expected myself to be there. And now looking back, I can't believe I was there. But it just, that evolution of time, trauma, being around just the wrong people, and really looking up to the wrong things. I mean, it is what it is now. And that comes to like other people's lows, right? Like somebody might have the worst hangover ever in high school and be like, you know what, I never want to drink much more than 5 drinks, right? And like, if you look back at my high school drinking, I would be so hungover every time. I would be throwing up, like literally that'd be part of the day. Like we wake up next day, I'm the one just puking and can't move at all, or I'm gonna be sick. And that wasn't enough to make me stop, right? Because I wanted to, like, for me personally, I really wanted to like fit in and feel comfortable, and I couldn't. Like if I was in a party, I was the stuff mentally that was going on, I was so insecure. I was so concerned about what other people thought. I was so scared of being made fun of that alcohol would get rid of that feeling, and then all of a sudden I was in with everyone, talking to everyone, and I was who I wanted to be, is what I thought. And to a point that still is, like, now I just have the confidence and I don't need a substance to do that. But at that time, the substance is what I thought gave me the capability to talk to people. It was basically just overcoming a lifelong fear that I had. And I should have been able to learn it differently, but that's how I was able to do it. And if I didn't have substances, I was like an anxious mess, and I would be like, I don't know, freaking out. Like inside it's like being paranoid as hell on weed, but that was what I felt like all the goddamn time. Like everywhere I went, every time I'm in public, like I still have those feelings at times, but I'm able to be aware of them and be like, hey, that person isn't thinking about how your socks don't match or whatever the hell is I'm so insecure about. Like I'm a very insecure person, I guess. Like I've grown a lot since then, and now I'm just able to acknowledge it and like okay, this thought doesn't make sense. But when I was younger, I had so many questions and so many fears. I wasn't able to have any answers for them. So to shut that voice up, substances were able to do that, and that made me feel like I could just be myself, right? Like, I don't have to worry about that stupid voice. The voice is gone. But then you end up acting completely like, now looking at people that drink and being around it, I'm like, who are you? Because they're not being their true self. It's like this alternate personality almost. Once people have drank enough, there's a point where you're fun, and then there's just a point where you're like a separated self. And it's crazy to be this far now where I don't see the point, but I can very well remember, like, just even at those high school parties where, like, I was just chugging beers so I could just feel like I could be a part of it. All right, I kind of just listened back over to what I was just talking about, and I don't think I've ever really talked to anyone about those like high school feelings. But man, it couldn't be any more true. Like, at those times, I would do anything to not feel that anxiety, that stuff inside. And I would always, like, it's like a buildup of all week, like, especially going to like high school. I was anxious all the time in high school. I was so scared of what people thought. And then it comes to the weekend when everyone gets together, and like that's your moment to break out of that like feeling. And I didn't want to feel like that at the party. I wanted to feel like I was like in control, you know what I mean? I would chase that high to get away, to feel involved, to just to not feel those feelings I was feeling. And that just continued to be a habit. And I learned that substance was a tool at that sense, that if I use substance, I got this. I would get this reaction, and it would get rid of those feelings. And then you start using it all the time as a coping mechanism for anything, right? And when you're down, when you're out, and you keep trying to avoid those lows by continuously using as you get farther and farther into it. And as I've compared it in the past, it's like interest on a really bad investment. You like keep paying off your minimum payment, but the interest is so high that the actual sum you need to pay out is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're only able to give that minimum payment. That's all you can afford to give, because you don't have a grasp of it right now. You have too much going on, and eventually it becomes so overwhelming. You're bankrupt. Your soul, you as a person, you become bankrupt. And that's actually my best description of like what addiction is. And honestly, like, even as I'm telling this story and sharing my views and thoughts on it, I almost still kind of feel blessed the fact that I was able to go through it, because I would not have been able to learn this much about myself and like just my mentality if I didn't go through these hardships. Even as a kid, I always wanted to like learn about myself and learn about others, and like now that learning, I want to be able to help that other kid that's like me, you know? If there's a kid that's listening right now that can listen to this and not take the route I did and learn from this, that is like the ultimate goal, is to have people never go through the substance abuse. But then there's the kid that is. And for that kid that is going through the substance abuse, I don't care if you're 40 years old, there's still that kid at heart that's broken, that has that wound that just keeps getting bigger, and it doesn't seem to be a bandaid that can put it back together. And if I can help you finally feel okay in this world, maybe I'll say the one thing that's going to be like, that makes friggin' sense. Then like that's the goal, right? The goal is to either stop you from doing it in general or be able to help you stop doing it. Of course, I can't stop for you, but if me sharing this story and my thoughts and what I've learned can help you end up living a fulfilling life without substance, that is my goal. And yeah, so if you guys can help me with this goal, please like and subscribe so others can see this the way YouTube works is likes, subscribes, comments, it pushes it to other people to actually be able to view it. Otherwise, no one sees this. This just goes off into the abyss. And so I'd really like your help that way, guys. But I really, truly appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to sit down and listen to me share my story, share my thoughts, share my views. And hopefully this can lead to change in this world for at least one other person. Hopefully that's my ultimate goal. Is I always just tell myself if I could change one person, but my real goal is to change as many people's lives as possible. If I can help anybody and as many people as possible, then I truly feel like I'm fulfilling what I'm supposed to in this world. Again, thank you guys for watching. On the next podcast, I'm going to talk about influence, and being under the influence isn't always on substance. And I really want to dive into that. So we're going to dedicate the next podcast to that. And then after that, I think I really want to try and get a guest on here. I've talked to a few people about it. So hopefully by the fourth podcast, we will have a guest. And I feel like it'll be a lot more entertaining when you have a conversation going on instead of me just preaching to you almost. I don't know. But again, thanks for listening to my thoughts. Till next time, guys, one day at a time, baby. That's all we got. So let's make the most of it.